Welcome to the Suzane Northrop Show, where the spirit world comes alive.
Hey guys, so you're here to support me the first time on, what's not my first time on StreamYard. StreamYard, I got it right, don't I? It's not my first time on StreamYard. Obviously, it won't be my last time. For most of you folks that knew this, I sent out a whole thing in my newsletters about blog, went to blog heaven, so blog heaven is no longer. So I had to resort to another what do you want to call it, system. And so I had done this one a couple of times, so I thought we would try it. It is video. And I happen to really, I must tell you, I'm very honestly, I really love the audio because I love radio, and it always makes me sort of feel it. But most of the world now has gotten very used to video. So I'm going to put on my video stuff and wear a little makeup here and there and you know, try to look presentable to you guys. But I know so many of you that are coming through, and I love you that you've supported me tonight. I have one of my favorite people with me, which is Bill Attride, and I don't know if he's a virgin to StreamYard like I am, but in any case, I figured if I had to do a test, he would be the person to do the test with. And we're getting a lot of emails. And of course, the other reason, of course, besides that I love Bill, the other reason is that we got kind of gypped out of our astrology Welcome to the Year of 2025 show because we were waiting, both of us were waiting on the blog thing, and literally shut down. And so when they shut down, it was just, we were talking to each other, and nobody was on the air and whatever it is. So we had to film an alternative, and I did not want to remiss and have everybody miss Bill's great, going into 2025 thing, whatever it is. And I know we'll be doing some messages and all this stuff, and my rock star Stephanie is putting up with us. She's in the backstage or whatever you call that. But we got a lot of folks in here. Thank you so much for joining. And so what we're going to probably do is we will. Okay, so the folks that are in line. Do they become behind the stage again, Stephanie? Is that how we work that out? Or do they have questions or all that kind of stuff? How are we going to do that? You let me know. So I can't hear you, so I don't know where you are. You must be here.
Hi.
You are.
Say hello.
Okay.
So yes, this is our first StreamYard, so bear with us, guys. We're all getting our kind of bearings. So they're going to be leaving all their messages right here on this side. You'll be able to read all those coming in from Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Directly on StreamYard.
So far, I'm just seeing names, but are there messages under the names? Is that the deal, or
there will be? Everyone's just kind of telling us where they're coming in from tonight. But
okay, got it.
If everybody wants to kind of, as you and Bill go on and ask any questions directly, we can answer that.
Okay,
we'll read them off to you.
Sounds great. Sounds great. Okay. All right. So in saying all of that, and I love this. We're switching all over the world here, which is kind of cool. So everybody knows Bill, if you know me, because we've known each other for a long time. We were trying to figure out how long we've known each other. We just stopped counting, I think, after whatever years. And we're both still standing, which I think is a quite wonderful thing. It says an awful lot to the work that we both do. And we're both, I have to say, I don't want to say old timers in the sense of age. I mean, old timers in the sense of we came from a different place in a different school. An etiquette of what we call these particular sciences, astrological sciences and mediumship sciences. And when you come from that different world, you came from a very different world in terms of etiquettes and all the things of the do's and the don'ts that you don't do. And besides, him being so good at he does, I come from that. And so for me, it's really important. And of all these years, to be quite honestly, that I've done this work, I think I've only had maybe 5 people that actually do what he does on my shows. And I credit that to, really picking the best. And I do that for you as well, mostly because I want you to have that sort of exposure. So in saying all of that, let's do maybe like a quick overthrow, Bill, of welcoming to 2025. I know we had the big Pluto change and a few other things. And then when you guys do the post at the comment, if you want to ask some questions, do that. I know. I have one of my favorite California people on board here, and I'm really, and I know I spoke to a couple of them yesterday. Anybody that's not sending love out to California, please do every moment of your day, because it's much needed. And it is the city of angels and one of my special places. So I'm passing that on as well. So, Bill,
Yes.
in saying that, can you give us like a sort of a quick intro of the 2012? We've obviously been official. And for all you guys that don't know this, everyone that doesn't know this, we just entered the Chinese New Year, which is the year of the snake. And I always tell people that if you want to know what the year of the snake is, and that's your animal, you might want to look it up. And you might want to, the other thing, it's like astrology, is you might want to go back to the years that you had that the snake was there, and you can kind of get a sense of maybe what your life was, maybe the good and the whatevers, and that's one of the way of calculating. It's the same way that Bill does when he talks about that you've had been hit by this planetary configuration. It's sort of that, it's different. It's a different kind of a metaphysical science, but it is for many people, a kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
So anyway,
it is. Yeah.
so further ado.
So Happy New Year. This is the Lunar New Year in Chinese astrology, and I'm not that savvy about Chinese astrology. I'm of course aware of astrology and sidereal and tropical and all those things, and Chinese somewhat. And I am a snake. This is my year.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
Yeah, and so it doesn't mean whatever. Just I acknowledge that, but I of course look at astrology through my lens, which is the Western astrology, tropical astrology, and today is also a new moon. That's why it's a new year for the Chinese astrology. But in terms of what's happening this year, I have talked about it a bit on my own show and also written about it in my blog, that this is a really special year astrologically, because it's quite unusual to have all the outer planets having just moved or are now moving this year into new signs all together.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean is that Pluto has now entered Aquarius to stay, and Saturn is slowly moving into Aries, and we'll get in there and jumping around at the beginning of Aries, as is the planet Neptune. And meanwhile, the planet Uranus is moving into Gemini, your sign, Suzane.
Yay.
So we have all the outer planets, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, all transiting to the beginnings of signs, which means they're all in aspect to one another, forming a very specific pattern that is quite beautiful. And so I think it is a year of transition. It's a year of change and of new energy forms that will surprise people in how different things are, Xing out what's happening in the world, whether with technology or politics or whatever. Because whether we were a million years ago or a million years in the future, these alignments would be happening in some form or other.
Yeah.
But they, for me, are indicators of what kind of time we're in and how we're being influenced or guided as a result of that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this planet Pluto hasn't been in Aquarius
For a long time.
since the late 1770s, and Neptune hasn't been in this sign of Aries since the 1820s and 30s. So we're I mean, sorry, the 18 I gotta get this right, 1860s. So we're in a very different time, because these outer planets they take a long time to get on the solar system.
Right. If you're not aware of that, Capricorn I think it started in 2008, if I am not correct.
Yeah, Pluto and Capricorn was 2008
and
to
so
this
it just
year.
came out of. Does that show you how long we have been in the planet Pluto in Capricorn?
Capricorn, yes, for 16 years,
and
that was the time I
we're
said
done.
that. Yeah. Well,
we're done.
it's the breaking down. Pluto is the sort of like the transformative planet, breaking things down and rebuilding them, and that was the breaking down of a civilizational period of history from the 1700s till now. And so really we were all battling for the last 16 years over the past and what to preserve and what to change and what to tear down. And now that Pluto's in Aquarius, that's the sign of the future, the sign of new ideas and new social forms of organization. It's in the Aquarius is the sign of the dreams of the future. So now, rather than fighting over the past, now we're going to be struggling over what kind of future we want to make.
We want to be. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's quite exciting.
I think so too. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
first of all, for anybody that doesn't know this, Aquarian is about humanitarian,
Mhm.
and it's about on a larger scale, environmental stuff, anything that would have to do with something you would think really would be really positive. I mean, if you think about it on that way, because
Yeah.
when you had Capricorn, it all had to do with structure. I mean, real structures and
Right.
structures that were very hard to break down. Like
Yeah.
this system forever, and this system forever, and this system
Right.
forever,
Yeah.
with no breaking of it. And so
Well,
it's
we
time.
want when things are working, we want them to continue and be structural and sound. But when the spirits left the temple, so to speak, and we've got that
Mhm.
structure just staying in place, it's holding back the
Yes.
changes that are necessary.
Yes.
And Aquarius is the dream of the future, but it's also it's social consciousness, it's
Hmm.
community, it's fellowship, it's friendship. Um, it's the recognition that we're all here. We want to be happy, which means we all want self-fulfillment. And we can only achieve that when we're in sustainable, meaningful communities that support one another and one another's dreams to come true.
Hmm.
And that's what we're going to be, that's what we're working towards is that how can we make not just my dream come true, but your dream come true because they depend upon one another.
Right. It was interesting because I had an interview today with a medium who saw me many, many years ago who's Canadian. And one of the things that we talked about it was um, that she felt like that a lot of people that were still kind of quote unquote recovering from the pandemic because
Mhm.
of being separated and being isolated and that isolation of separating people and that whole energy that was connected to it has still really had a very strong effect on a lot of people and trying to come back to what we call community. And if you didn't know the importance of community now, you will never know the importance of community now, from so many things that are going on. Like I said, I mean, a perfect example is California, and they have to have this community to obviously to survive this very, very difficult period for them.
Yeah,
And they
right.
will. I mean, they're Californians. They will. They'll figure it
Yeah,
out because that's
yeah,
what they do, and that's why a lot of people live there. To be quite honest with you, I lived there 10 years, so I know that. But
yeah, yeah.
in any case, and the other thing is the reason why I brought up that Capricorn went into in 2008 and just ended now is that when you're dealing with these outer planetary configurations, is that things are slow. So
Right.
what Bill is saying is like, what's going to go on? But this is not going to happen tomorrow.
No, yeah, Pluto will be in Aquarius until 2044 now. So this is a
Exactly.
long period of transformation and change, and
Yes.
Neptune will be equally in Pisces till the 2030s. And so
Right.
this is stuff that unfolds over time. And so we look
Mhm.
at the little planets moving around more quickly, sort
Mhm.
of bringing things down to earth here and sort of bringing it to our consciousness. But these larger long wave phenomena things are
Mhm.
shaping the tides of history.
Right.
Certainly we look at them all and try to understand how they all influence and affect one another.
Mhm.
But to see them all lining up with one another like this is very special. And it means anybody who has a planet at the very beginning of, let's say, Aries or Gemini or of Aquarius will be feeling all these effects at the same time also. So it's a very special year for anybody
Mhm.
born at the beginning of those signs or related signs. So
Mhm. Mhm.
it's sort of like it's like plucking a guitar string and every one of the strings starts vibrating or something in
Oh, I like
harmony.
that. That works for me.
Yeah,
And so the other quick thing is that when we talk about masses are very slow. And I could give you probably 1,000 examples of that. But for example, when I became a vegetarian a long, long time ago, I was like in a lone house by myself. Now you have younger people growing up and a whole generation that are vegans, and
sure.
it's not even think twice about it. And it's sort of like because of that, all food places have to cater to them because it's like it's all over. It's not like one thing, but it progressively, and I've been one for a long time. Progressively, look how long from when I was one, when I
Right.
became one, to where we are now. So the
Yeah.
masses are always much slower than we are in individuals. But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think now, and I don't know, you might know this kind of a little bit more than me, but I think we're in a period where everything's much faster. I don't know why. It just it just seems like it's much faster. So that may make that difference. It may make the difference in terms of where we think things are longer, or they may be faster, or whatever, because just kind of maybe that's a
Well,
planetary configuration as well.
well, it's also what we've created because we've created a world of instant connections and
Yes.
communications, and so how we're wired. Thinking back in the day when people wrote letters to each other and mailed a letter and had
I
to wait
know, I
weeks to
missed
hear.
that. I
I mean,
really
had to
missed
wait
that.
weeks and weeks to get a reply, and
I
so I
know.
mean, and it gave you time for reflection and be being quiet in your waiting moment before you got an answer. And now it's like, if someone doesn't reply to you immediately when you send
You
them a
freak
text,
out.
you get a, and like, why?
I happen to be
Just
really upset about like the love letter thing. I got to tell you, I mean, like that's me. I'm really upset about the love letter thing. It's like that. It's like, I mean, that was, to me, was like one of the wonderful things about courtship is. But now people can't write, so I don't know what to tell you.
well, they send emojis
They
instead.
have to
That's
send
what they do.
emojis and stuff. Oh God! But then I feel like it's not personal because everybody got the same emojis.
Well,
Right?
that I think because people are so much immersed in this virtual world that when they
Hmm.
do get together person to person and one-on-one or in groups, they're finding again, and then of course they know when they experience it,
Hmm.
this is what we've been missing. We need to be with people, put our phones down, and engage with people without this thing between us.
So tell me what you do when you go to a restaurant, Bill.
Oh no, I
And the
don't. The phone's
mother
not
and the
there.
daughter and the son, they're all there
No,
on the
no, we're just
machines, and nobody's having a
we're all just
conversation.
talking and having a ball and interacting with the staff as well as the people we came with because it's a social experience. It's
Yes,
not a, you know, I mean,
yes, yeah. But
I
we do
that's
know
why
that that does happen, and now when they're going out to dinner, they're all on the machines, and
right, which is then they're not there. That's the
they're
problem.
not
No,
there, right?
that what they say we're in this attention economy where everybody's trying to get our attention and hold
Hmm.
it and then slice it and dice it and market it. And we have to take back our attention and choose what we put our focus upon. And it should be upon the person in front of us or
Yes.
the book we're reading or the whatever we're doing and keep our attention focused so we keep having a deep mind and a deep connection to whatever and to one another. Yeah,
Hmm. Yes.
that's something.
Okay, so this is something I don't know. Maybe you know, Bill.
Mhm.
I have a question: how the planet parade affects us now?
Well, the Planet Parade people were talking about this last week was just that in the night sky you could see arcing across the heavens, Venus and Mars and Saturn and Jupiter, and that's fine. It looks very nice, but astrologically, we look at the actual planetary positions and how they're lining up with one another for our sake in terms of interpreting their relationship to each other. So what we saw that in that arc is nice. I mean, it's pretty. It's, but for me, it's not significant as much as what I'm seeing in real terms, in terms of
Hmm.
where all the planets are and their relationship to one another. That's what's significant to
Of
me.
course, of course,
Um, and
and the relationship to one another, and of course that means the relationship to us.
Right, and to us. And
Yes.
so we're going to be, I mean, this year we're going to have the normal eclipses. I mean, we'll have two lunar and two solar. We're going to have three Mercury retrogrades. Venus is going to turn retrograde in March. Mars is already retrograde but goes direct in February. And we're going to have Mercury retrograde and Venus retrograde at the same time.
So if you're
That's
in a
going to be
relationship,
yeah, well, that's going to be a really good time for rethinking
hmm,
thought and also rethinking value.
ah,
Or reconsidering value in your life.
wonderful.
And it's going to be that's March 1st to April 12th is Venus retrograde. It's always about 40 days. And Mercury's retrograde this first time around from March 15th to April 7th. So for a couple of weeks there, they're
Mm.
both retrograding.
Plus, we have
And
the Eyes of March too in the middle of it all.
right, and so I think it's going to be a really special time for everybody to have an opportunity to rethink, and also to re-examine what is my value and what is our value in that period of March into April. So it's going to be we look at these things and people say, oh, it's annoying, Mercury's retrograde. I said, no, it's an opportunity.
Well, I know it's retrograde because I'm traveling to California then, and I always tend to travel when Mercury's retrograde.
Well, you, well,
It's like a disease with me. It's like,
well, well,
and of course Stephanie, she's it's a nightmare. Mercury retrograde is a nightmare for Stephanie.
oh, gee, I'm
And
sorry,
our
Stephanie.
birthdays are, she's a Gemini also, but for some reason I don't know why I don't seem to be really affected by it. I know it's a
Okay.
great time to write. That I know.
Oh, yes,
Uh,
and to go within and to consider and reconsider. That's what it's
yeah,
for.
yeah. But
Um,
I end up always end up traveling when it's retrograde. Now I won't buy something expensive when it's retrograde. That I won't do.
right,
But
right. Yeah.
that stuff is out the window. But I don't really mind the travel. Maybe that's whatever. But
Well,
whatever. It's what can I say? It's so. But you're right. I am actually looking forward to some of these nice planetary things you're talking about coming up in the spring because I'm thinking we're looking into a hop in time here. So
yes, I think what I believe it's always about consciousness, and I think we're going to see a new wave of a new kind of consciousness becoming more apparent on the planet.
mhm,
And it doesn't mean we've moved beyond our former divides, but I think we're going to be transcending some of the separation and finding more, hopefully, some more commonalities about what we all know and believe what we need. I mean, they're basic human needs, and we need to meet them,
mhm,
and we should need to not fight about that, but
right.
find ways of meeting each other in that space of caring for each other and meeting each other's needs as
And
best
that's
we
what we were
can.
talking about at the beginning is that I think that people are still going through the changes of the pandemic and reconnecting, and obviously there's a lot of other division stuff, and it's sort of like when you have, well, I mean, if you have things like within households, like for example, you may be disagreeing with your siblings or your parents or whatever it is, but those are opportunities to work through, like, okay, so you feel this way and I feel that way, but somewhere we can, connect because we love each other. We
Okay.
love each other. So, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah,
deal.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, I see a person that we're seeing questions being posted up there. Are we supposed to be responding to these questions as they come up,
Yes.
Stephanie? Is that a good? Well,
Yes.
like someone saying, how's the planet parade affecting us right now? And it's each of those planets would have a different effect right now for individuals. And it's not about the parade again,
Hmm.
though people find it amusing. I think what the parade represents, it's what it's to show us is that by seeing those bodies out there and realizing those are planets, that we're part of a system
We
and
are.
that we're moving in the system and we're part of this system and we are all connected in relationships to one another and the earth to these other planets as well is what I find in the beauty of that parade. But in terms of the actual planetary positions and what they're doing in the heavens and what they're doing in individuals charts, that's a very different kind of question of how they're affecting us. Like Pluto now moving into Aquarius, if you're born at the very beginning of Aquarius, you're definitely feeling this question about the will and
Mm.
about how I maintain my own sacred space and respect the spaces of others, because that's Pluto's lesson, is that we're all in our own sacred space and we should never force ourselves upon another nor be forced by another. We have to choose to enter into our shared sacred spaces. Those are what we call relationships. And then
Correct.
as far as my space, nobody comes into my space except them in the most sacred of relationships because
Hmm.
it's a sacred space.
Of
And
course.
that's the lesson of Pluto.
Right.
And
And
yet
so if
Neptune,
you happen to
yeah,
have, now we were talking about Pluto, and
uh,
if you have it at the beginning, and then you have one of these other planets we talked about, the other signs, like you said, mentioned Aries, you mentioned Gemini, and
yeah, yeah, Neptune going into Aries and Saturn going into Aries, yeah. And
yes.
so Neptune is, I look at Neptune as being a planet that holds the energy form that is what is behind all of creation. It's divine unconditional
Mm.
love.
Hmm.
It is the planet that deals with understanding that there's a higher mind, that is Uranus. There's a higher form of love, that is Neptune. And then we have the will, which creates the containers that we all exist in. So I look at it as Uranus is the mind of God, and Neptune is the love of God, and
Hmm.
Pluto is the will of God.
Mm.
In a higher way of looking at these planets. Now, for individuals, Uranus just brings about shocks and surprises,
Yes.
not to shock you, but to break you free from being less of who you are and becoming more truly who you are. It's the planet of individuation. And so all you Geminis, get ready now, because Uranus is going to be going through Gemini. And it's a time to sort of like, if I'm doing things that I know isn't truly who I am, I've been holding back, let me break free of this now. And if I am being truly myself,
Mhm.
even more opportunities will now pop up for me to be that truer self in the world and in my life. Uranus frees us.
Right.
And Neptune helps us connect and dissolve boundaries to see that which is beyond us. It's the planet for clairvoyance and clear seeing. It's the planet of intuition because it dissolves through boundaries and sees things as they're, that everything is connected with everything else.
Right. And I got two of those.
you got,
I
you
got
got,
two of those. Yes, because I have a grand trine.
oh, well, yeah, well, I look at your chart, certainly, no. I mean, you've got your sun trining Neptune and your moon trining Neptune and your moon trining your sun. It's a grand air trine.
Yes, it is.
And so that gives you part of what your great skill is in life, to be connecting up emotionally and consciously, or feeling and mind, to that power of Neptune.
Hmm.
Yeah, no,
Yes, absolutely. And of course,
yeah.
it's in the house.
And,
That has to.
and all in the work houses too.
I
The
was going to say,
second,
right,
yeah,
exactly.
no,
What
it's
do you
like,
think I do for a living?
and exactly. What do you, if someone read your chart when you're going, says, I think this person might be very intuitive when they do their work. And really, what's their intuitional work is what they're going to be doing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
what you came in for. Of
No
course.
question about it. Yes. Yes. It was just sort of like, that shingle was put in front of me and, but.
Well, no, you could have been. I mean, the same thing could be applied for someone who's going to be an amazing artist,
Yes.
or other ways of using one's intuitive ability to create a story or share a story, whether it's
Well,
in
I
image.
actually am an amazing artist, and my background was music. So,
There you go. No, oh,
yeah.
great. It's
So
I'm
that,
good for music, because in air sign
yeah.
people are
Hmm.
very musical, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. And I,
Yeah.
and I always felt like, that it was like, because my specialty, of course, was composition. So it was like, I always felt like I was hearing it.
Ah,
And Alexis is saying, "Help, that's me." Yes, he's a Gemini too. It's like the hearing. So it didn't matter if it was notes or sounds from the other world. So it was like it all
yeah.
comes through that, basically that sort of that same channel,
Yeah.
which you probably have a little bit of that too, also being an Aquarius.
Oh
So
no, but yeah, no,
you know, you know,
I have my Saturn and Neptune in my third house for
yeah. So
communication.
there you
Yeah.
go. And
Yeah.
when those are there, I'm a very firm believer that we can do everything we can to avoid it. But somewhere along the line, the expression is going to come up and bite you in the, whatever, because, we are who we are. This is
Yeah.
how we are wired. This is what we chose to come in at this time.
Right.
And, and of course I had these conversations with people. That I had one with somebody the other day. It was like, somehow it was about, like, I said, well, I hate to break it to you, but you did choose your parents. I thought she was going to throw something at me, and I said, please don't. I'm just sort of the messenger here. And I said, that I'm not asking you to believe this. I'm just sort of telling you that's how, if you can't have free will in one place and not have it in another.
Well,
Meaning that,
yeah. Well, when I look
right?
at a person's chart and
Yeah,
look at the parents' chart and the grandparents, I see the patterns that
right,
repeat, and then also change when somebody wakes up and doesn't pass on a form of patterning.
right.
And you realize we were born exactly where we were meant to be born, to those
Yes.
kinds of individuals in those
Hmm.
social circumstances, which would elicit our own patterns beginning to start working. We're the ones who create those past patterns, so we're the author of who we are, but our parents help elicit
Yes.
that and bring it out, but they didn't
Exactly.
create it. So parents get a pass. It's not their fault.
Right. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is that,
Yeah,
if this is coming up now and you happen to have those particular planetary configurations, and you need to whatever deal and look at and whatever, it's an opportunity. And
right.
if you don't, then it's like,
And it also goes both ways. I see with parents, like I'll have a parent and their partners, the mother and father, and they're very earthy people, and they have a very fiery child, and
mhm,
so and you might say, what's that about? I say, well, they're supposed to be helping one another. The child getting a little more grounding from the parent,
correct,
and the parents being more inspired by this idealistic,
right,
fiery
yes,
child. So it's not like it's a one-way street, right? It's
mhm,
it's a it's an experience for both to be learning from one another, to be growing
mm,
through one another.
yes,
Um,
yes,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We have George, sir. He said he saw me. Um, when his mom crossed over in 2008. He swore, "Thank you, George." And I saw, I guess, in Tampa for what he said, and I'm on the other side now. But he's in Aquarius, following the Pluto stuff, so that's great because you're always going to know people that have either these, obviously these configurations within their chart, which means it, and then they may have people around them in their lives that it helps them knowing that maybe they're going through that also, because especially if you're with people, you have friends or you have family or you have partnerships, then of course they get the whole brunt of it.
Oh no, definitely no. We all have. We're in a sea of energies that are constantly shaping and shifting around and moving through us.
Yes.
And so every waking moment, we're in an energetic environment. And of course, we're bringing our own setup to that. And the question is, are you aware of who you are and aware of this moment in front of you and what you could do to work with this energy in the most positive manner and pass that on? So we can't change what was, and we really can't know the future.
No.
because we're still making it right now.
Correct.
But if we're present right now, attentive to the moment, understanding the kind of energy we're dealing with here, that this is a time to wait or a time to move forward, a time to be leaning in or a time to pull back, to make the best use of this energy, then we're doing our part to move creation along.
Yes.
And there are many people down here who are awake and aware, and they're very sensitive, and other people who are insensitive, I guess, and unaware of what they're doing, and they're maybe spilling out energies that may be more disturbing or not as contributing as well as it could be. But that's just because of it not having that awareness, right? And all of us can lose it. I mean, even those the most aware of us can at times,
Sure.
fall into error, as they say, and misjudge or misplay the opportunity of that moment. And we just have to let it go and forgive ourselves and move on.
Right. Right.
But hopefully, every morning we wake up and think about the day ahead, and at the end of the day, we'll look back at how we did that day and say, okay, I could have done that better, and then make the determination to try to be that better person the next day. That's all we're asked to do. That's all we can do.
And then there are people who are dealing with very intense issues in their lives, maybe medically and emotionally.
Yeah.
And they're thankful that they have another day. So
yeah.
it's a whole spectrum
Right.
of of what we call life.
Yeah.
It doesn't come with a manual.
No. I mean,
and
I'm sure I'll learn just like you. I'll never know when I'm picking up the phone or an email pops into my Dropbox and I respond to it, and oh my God, what that person's going through, and you either so happy for them or you're so pained by their loss or their difficulty, and
or you admire how they're able to get up in the morning and put their shoes and socks on and somehow face the day through
all those difficulties.
Yes. That's something that I think I deal with so much of people that have lost children or siblings that are young and those are and I'm always I'm not only amazed, but I'm constantly touched by how they can still and I'm not saying it's all, because I know it's all kind of individual, but how they I'll just remember this one woman to me. She didn't lose one daughter. She lost two daughters, twin daughters, in a car accident. And when I saw her the first time, they had just crossed over. And I didn't see her for like a while, but I couldn't believe the state of her mind after this kind of loss. And I was very admiring of that. And then I saw her like 10 years later when her husband died. And I just said to her, because I had known her from her daughter's loss, and I just said, like, I'm amazed that how you can be the way you are, and really, I feel so much love from from this, obviously these tragedies that you had in your life. And she said to me, she said, well, if I didn't send out love, I couldn't receive love. And that's such a simple statement, but such a powerful statement.
Yeah, that's I'm saying that statement probably every day in every one of my readings, is that the part of the realization people have come to is that there's so many people who feel they want love, they want to get some love because they're not feeling the love that they'd like to feel, and I keep reminding those people. I say, look, the truth is you are made of love, and the truth
Right.
you're full of love. And if you
That's right.
want to experience that, you have to be that source of love. You have
Yes.
to be loving, and like magic, love will come back to you. But if you are looking for love, as they say, in all the
Hmm.
wrong places, you can't
Hmm.
find it because you're
Right.
starting with the premise that I got to get some love to feel love, and you can't get
Right.
love that way.
Right. And you
Yeah,
also have to think of it as everything because the truth is everything is energy.
yeah,
And it's like, no, am I going to want to be with this person that's negative, or this person who's always fetching, or they're always with? I mean, that's hard, right? So you think about,
right.
like, what kind of a friend or a partner or sibling or whatever I could be, if you're always complaining, or there's never anything good, or there's
Right, right.
that
But you,
stuff is extremely draining.
right. Well, they're sort of caught in a personality structure that's their tick. Like that's their way of dealing
Yes.
with life. And
Yes.
if you're there at the right moment, you can catch them and remind them, saying, "Do you
Yes.
realize what you're doing here? You're just making your situation like this." And if you
Yeah.
instead turn it around, saying, rather than complaining about something, be grateful
Yes.
for what you have. And then they keep practicing that, all of a
Hmm.
sudden that tick, that
Yes.
persona begins to fade, and they become this person full of gratitude and love, and their whole
Right.
life changes.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but some people just do that because that was ingrained as a mechanism of defense, of protection, or whatever, in this life or another life, and they just are made that way. But the message is you can remake yourself.
Absolutely. And if you've got these planetary configurations that you're talking about, Bill.
Well, you get some help from the universe, but it's
Yes.
all
Yes.
on us. I mean, the
Yes.
teachings are the teachings, and that you know we know that if a person's not feeling good, if they just say just smile, and by smiling they actually feel better, like the
Absolutely.
physical act of smiling. And then if you do a kindness for somebody and they're so grateful, oh my God, you
Absolutely.
light up. You go,
Yes.
wow, I feel so good now,
Well,
and
I'm in the marketplace and they're looking grumpy, and I'm saying, like, but you got these beautiful vegetables in front of you. You should,
yeah,
but it's really true. And then their energy changes. It's
it
it's
does.
it's just so
It
true.
it does.
It
It
doesn't
does.
take, those, to me, it's never been the big things in life. It's always been the little things.
The little acts when
And
when yeah.
those little acts of kindness, and God knows we can use a lot of kindness. And my thing is that, I mean, Capricorn served its purpose. It did its thing. It's
Yeah.
time to it's time
Yeah.
to get into a little more of, caring and loving and humanity stuff. And I don't just say that, surreptitiously, in terms of, the magical kingdom. That's not what I'm implying. I'm implying that, when, just exactly what we said, when you can send that out to somebody, or you could tell somebody's not having a good day. It was like, I was in a restaurant today, and I could tell this woman was really struggling to get to the restaurant with her cane in her hand and her pocketbook in her other hand. Women have to have their pocketbooks.
Right.
But it was like the pocketbook became more important than the cane. And I just waited for her, and she goes, like, you waited for me? And I go, like, well, I could tell you needed to have the door open. And it was like, she was just, it's like I gave her the lottery. It was like
Right.
just
Right.
that simple thing.
Yeah. Well, that's my analogy I use for going through life. Is life's like going through a series of doors, and there's always somebody going through the door ahead of you. Now, maybe they're having a bad day, or they're just
And
such
they
a horrible
slammed the door in
person,
your face.
and they slammed it on your face.
Yes.
And now you're going through the door, and here's your moment. What
Right.
came at you was negative energy for whatever reason. It may have been negative energy that had been passed down
Hmm.
for thousands of years, person to
Right.
person.
Hmm.
But you, if you're aware, if you stand and hold the door open for the next person, you change the world.
You've changed that energy right then.
Yeah, and we're meant to be transmuters of energy. Energy
Yes.
it comes either in a negative or positive valence.
Right.
And we, with our consciousness, with our heart, our mind, our understanding, can be the difference. And those little actions add up.
Because everything is energy.
Yeah. And so if we keep doing positive actions, turning negative positive, we can turn the whole word positive over time.
Hmm.
But if people keep on passing on negativity, putting people down, being mean to people, whatever it may be, we're creating a really awful future. That's that's the problem. So the answer, of course, is just kindness and love. We know that it is
Right.
helping one another and
We
lifting
do
each
know
other
that.
up. Yeah.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
we're all on board with that, and most spiritual teachings speak to that. And so We just have
Yes.
to keep practicing it. That's all.
That's right. Yes. And just sort of like catch yourself. And the thing is that, it's you don't have to go very far, to see, these. I mean, I'm just the devastation in California. It just their whole lives and their homes
Right.
and anything that they had and stuff is like, how could you have a bad day after seeing that?
Right. And
You
you see
know?
all the people rushing in to help and people
Yes.
helping in the area, helping one another.
Yes.
They've lost everything, but they're still helping their neighbors and helping one. I mean,
And that's
that's
what
when
you're
you see
supposed to do.
humanity. Yeah,
Yes.
that's humanity at its best. That when
Yes.
we're at our best, when things are at their worst, because we've let go of all our attachments and say life and taking care of another person who needs me. That's the most important thing right now.
Yes.
And we wish these troubles didn't happen or are coming to us, but we know they're going to be happening. And so
Hmm.
we have to stick together and help each other. that's that's
Right.
the,
Yes.
that's the key.
And Mother Earth is doing her thing, whatever that thing is,
Yeah,
and trying to keep everything is in balance as much as one can.
yeah.
Sometimes they get out of whack before they come. As we all know, before they come back into the center.
Well, it's a dynamic living being also, little
Yep.
Mother Earth, and things are stirring always on this planet, and but we have seemed to set things in motion now a little bit more, and we have to adapt, but also have to hopefully correct, and it's going to take time,
Yeah. Pasha
obviously.
Mama.
But I'm hoping for miracles. I'm hoping for greater discoveries and more understanding and moving that needle back more quickly. Um, for everybody for the future because it's the future we're passing on to those who come after us.
Yes.
We want to be mindful and respectful that this is a
Yes, we
beautiful.
have a whole generation that we've got to leave to them. But I have to say, among a lot of things, that has always been one of the things that I've always admired and liked about you, Bill, is that you always, always give the best positive and centering, and I think it's wonderful. And you open up your sessions with that, which
Right, yeah,
so
it's
so
well, it's I think we're all uh, we're all on this path of awakening.
yes,
Each of us has a different song to sing in that chorus of spirit, but we all are bending towards the same goal, I think, is to create a beautiful world for one
yes,
another and live in a beautiful world for one another.
of course,
Um, and those people who are more damaged or broken, we have to care for them and help them so they don't cause further pain for themselves or other people. That's the point. But yeah, the story continues. It will continue for humanity, I believe. But 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 I do believe we'll look back at this year and realize things really shifted this year. Things
yes,
really changed this year.
hmm
And maybe it's the new age, maybe it's the age of Aquarius. We keep talking about that, and I don't know, but certainly there are signs that point to this being a tipping point, a turning point
yes, I
um,
agree, I agree.
in consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me the other day, they said, like, please let me know if you're going to retire. I don't want you to ever retire.
Well,
I was cracking up. She goes, like, please just let me know if that you're not going to retire because I need you not to retire.
yeah. Well, eventually, I always say, probably you said the same thing. Is when I'm no longer making sense, I know it's time to retire.
Well, that's pretty good. You probably have to do a little more. You have to do a little more mathematical stuff than I do. For me, as long as I have my brain
That's what I'm
and
saying. Yeah.
my
No. No.
mouth, and
Yeah. No.
and I can let them come through, then I could still work. So
Well, yeah. Well, yes, but it's also as our physical vehicles age, it's a lot of work to channel. We both
yes, it is.
channel,
Yes,
and the spirit's always willing. The spirit doesn't care.
they're never the issue
Right? No, but
because
our
they're not
physical.
using their vehicle. We're
I
using
know,
the
but we're the
vehicle.
vehicle.
Yeah,
We also have
yeah.
this. We got to take care of the vehicle. We got to
Yes.
pace ourselves, watch ourselves, and
Hmm.
eventually, it may need to rest more and have to pull back. But I haven't reached that moment yet. Probably you
Me
haven't
either.
either. But
Me either.
that's good, and I'm grateful that we haven't. But
Yep.
I know that time's coming. I know it'll come.
I don't know. I don't think about it.
Or I don't think about it. I just know when it comes, I go, oh my God, it came, but I'm, yeah, it's, it's I don't think about that. For an astrologer, it's strange. I don't think much about the future. I just wake up every day and do my job and look out ahead in terms of the calendar, whatever, but I'm not thinking about my future as much as who I'm taking care of.
Hmm. Of
And
course.
that's another trick about our lives being a little bit okay, I guess, is that if you're
Hmm.
not thinking about yourself so much, your own troubles seem to fade away because you're just
Yes.
dealing with other people who we see and hear so much pain and difficulty at times, right? So
Yeah.
what do I have to complain about?
Right.
I mean, truly,
Right. Hmm.
I
Right.
mean, I'm so grateful,
Yeah.
um, really, and I'm so grateful to be doing this.
Me
Um,
too. Me
yeah,
too. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We love what we do.
We love what we do. Yes. We do love what we do. Yeah. It's good.
um,
It's pretty
so
cool.
So, do we have any specific questions people want to ask us?
Well, let's see.
I mean,
I haven't seen any yet. Let's see. People are acknowledging that I connected to their husband. Thank you very much, Susan, and the best to you. She wanted to know something about. I read that this is a 9 year, but it's true. It is a 9 year. 2025 is a 9 year, and it means of course, a lot of endings and nines are crossed out when you do the numerologist chart.
right?
So
Okay,
everything it comes back to sort of the simple thing,
right.
but I haven't heard anybody that wanted to have a particular question
Okay,
um,
that's fine.
to you
Because I
as
know,
of
because
yet.
I know in the past in your shows, people called in and they would ask you or
Right,
me a specific question, and we would
right,
look at
right,
you would either read them or I would look at their chart, and
right.
that was fine. But if we're not doing that tonight, that people aren't.
Well, we're always doing that, but I haven't seen anybody who's really asked that yet. Let me
Okay,
just.
this is a new format, so maybe people
Right,
are
we'll have to
feeling
sort
a
of see how
little
that. Yes,
how it goes.
yeah.
We're
Um,
navigating new waters here,
we are
you and I.
definitely. We're definitely. What this is definitely a new water system, totally to me for sure. But yeah. In any case, but every once in a while, I think I see Susan and I know that this was yes, good evening. I realized I miss my husband, and you connect with him when he passed over, and that's a hard one,
Yeah,
and that's a
yeah,
real hard one. So, and we have Hope who missed her mom, and what I do know is first of all, there's the in general loss of somebody that we shared our lives with, which is by itself difficult, and I think that when you go through changes, like we are into a new year, that's a shift. You move from end of one year into new year, and as Bill was saying, we don't know where your planetary configurations may lie, but he did mention Gemini. He mentioned Aries. What was the other sign that you mentioned, Bill?
well,
Was it a
the big arc of the configuration is from Pluto at the beginning of Aquarius to Uranus at the beginning of
right?
Gemini, and right in the middle between the two of them, there'll be Saturn and Neptune at the beginning of Aries, forming
Right.
this triangle of energy for the whole year,
Yes.
off and on, sometimes stronger or less strong, but the whole year. And that's a
Mhm.
special alignment of the
Right.
outer planets.
So if you have any of those signs in the
Right.
main part of your
Yeah,
chart,
right. Yeah,
then
even if you're the very end of Capricorn, or you're the very, let's say, end of Pisces, or beginning of Aries, or the beginning of Aquarius, or the end of Taurus, beginning of Gemini, all these planets are lining up with those points in your chart and connecting them and eliciting something depending upon which planet we're talking about.
mhm,
So it for all of us, for most of us, going to have something at one of those points probably, or some
right,
aspect to those points. But
right,
for the planet as a whole, it says there's some special energy form being constellated this year,
mhm,
and I I'll have to see how it plays out, what it means. And I'm going to probably, in shows that I'll be doing later, look at specific charts like countries charts or leaders charts and see how that's showing up in their charts for the
mhm,
year.
right,
Um, but I've already been talking about with clients, seeing that they're having, let's say, Pluto line up with their Jupiter, but Saturn too, and Uranus too. And so I said, this
mhm,
is a special year where that planetary element in your chart is getting not one, not two, but three coinciding messages.
mhm,
It's a
right,
much more complex elicitation of your growth this year. Sometimes it's very simple, like this is you've got to make a choice between growth or cutting back on your growth. That's
Mhm.
Jupiter. Or what is your truth, or what do you believe? And maybe this is a much more nuanced year when it comes to these questions, when you have several things touching it at the
Right.
same time.
And is it always advantageous if you happen to know your chart? So when Bill is talking about if you have, any of those configurations, if you have any of these signs that he's talking about, it's a heads up
Right.
because
And again, even if it's not those signs, you could have here it's going into early Aquarius, which means the opposite sign would be someone having early Leo in their
Leo,
chart.
right?
Or if they have early Taurus, then it's squaring their or Pluto or Scorpio. So it's not just these, there are more advantageous, or you might say easier lineups, and more challenging ones. But challenges don't make them bad. They just can actually create more growth through that breaking
Correct.
up of the old pattern and moving along. But certainly it's a very powerful year for many people, and bringing about very substantial changes.
Hmm.
And the whole, given who we are as humans, though we feel physical effects and emotional effects, it's more in terms of our consciousness and our awareness that we can see the change taking place that leads to real change outwardly as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And I also find that it 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 it's it's like for me the perfect example is like if we didn't have Saturn in our chart and we didn't have aspects of Saturn in our chart, probably in a lot of ways we would never deal with certain things. It's like
right.
it
Yeah,
would we would like just sort of go through life without having any kind of depth or growth or whatever it is. But
yeah,
with Saturn there's no escape, and there's no escape because that's what the planet's about.
yeah,
But the other reason why there's no escape is because it's usually in a sign for at least 2.5 years.
right.
So even if you escape the first 6 months of it, you're not going to escape the whole period of time.
Right,
you
no,
know
no.
yeah, yeah,
Saturn's the teacher.
it's the
It is
teacher.
the elicitor of, like, okay, now you've got to get really real about this and be
Hmm.
purposeful and
Yes.
structured about it and
Right.
deal with your structures or change your
Hmm.
structures.
Right.
Yeah, Saturn is reality making,
Yeah.
which
Exactly.
things need to be real for a time, but then they need to move on to another form of manifestation. That's when it
Hmm.
gets difficult. People get attached to a certain way of being or a certain life, and then something's got to break that up. Um,
Right.
and so certain years are easier for breaking things up and moving along. Other years there's more tension with that, and we hold on and make the change more difficult. And that can happen, or we we jump into the change too quickly without preparing for it, and moving into it more gently. So
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Right.
sometimes things just happen,
Right. Right.
and we have to respond to it, but hopefully not react to it.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we have somebody who's asking, but I think we're getting really close to the hour, so it might be a little bit too late to check in here
Well, whatever.
for we had Trisha, and let's see.
So you're seeing all the messages. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Her date of birth is 10/13/1981. I don't know anything else. That's just what she said. Is there any significance to her? So
10,
10/13/1981. It's her date of birth, but I
10.
don't know much more than that.
Okay. I can, well, 10, 13, 81. I'm assuming this person's going to be in the US or
Yes,
something like that.
she's
Okay.
she's, she's
Yeah.
definitely in the U.S. Yes.
Okay. Definitely. Um,
Yeah.
so 10, 13, 81. I can just look at generic, and I'll just do it
Sure.
for the
Generic
East
is always
Coast.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, whatever. All the outer planets will be where they are. So that's fine.
Right. Right.
And, but obviously we prefer to have a real chart, but I'll look at this. So 10, 13, 81.
It's a Libra.
It's a Libra. They're Libra with their Saturn in Libra, Jupiter is Libra, Sun in, because they've got many planets in Libra. Um, and what would be the closest thing linking up in their chart this year? It probably is that their Mercury is at the beginning of Scorpio. So
Hmm.
Pluto's going to be squaring their Mercury, while Uranus is squaring their Mercury. So I would say the strongest configuration this year for this person is going to be dealing with the power of how I center and stabilize my mind as I'm exposed to some new and exciting information or shocking information. I'm being asked on the one hand to
Mm-hmm.
break up my mind and also deeply focus my mind.
Mm.
Because Pluto brings focus and concentration. Uranus brings an elicitation of thinking outside the box and being a very original kind of a thinker. So I
Mm.
would say the biggest effect for this year for this person is going to be on their mind, hopefully leading to great mental growth, mental changes, depth of mind, but also breaking out of old thought patterns.
Good, perfect.
What I
So,
would say.
Trisha, you got a
There you
little
go.
highlight there.
Okay, and that's just from the date of birth. I mean,
Right.
there's probably more there certainly with
Mhm, mhm.
other information. But
I'm going to answer Brenda. She just has a real quick question here about 45 years friendship fizzling out. Thank you. Trisha just said, excellent. Thank you.
okay, good. There you go.
I
Good.
told you Bill's a rock star. Um, I want to sort of say that sometimes length of times, especially in friendships and all that sort of, connection with people that we love, and things do change. And I know sometimes they happen after every many years. And sometimes um, it it's interesting because you feel like it's run its course. And I would say this to you, and this is not really usually what I like to sort of talk about, but something tells me that even though this is a friendship, it's something like family to you, or this person would be like family to you, put it to you that way. And I think that maybe sometimes things have run its course within a particular level of how it was, or what we had in common, or during that time. And so it may not run its course in a larger picture, but maybe in terms of where you are and where they are right now, it may be like a time to just, chill or relook, or see why you are kind of like going through this. And I know that there are people that sometimes may not see people for years, but then when they see each other, they really kind of reconnect. So I kind of get a sense that might be what this one is, Brenda. So just sort of think about that one.
Yeah, I,
So
I'm. I agree with you that the relationship it's a journey of two or more souls, but two
yes,
souls, let's say, coming together, and they find this intersection of their sensibilities, their tastes, their likes, their dislikes, their love of things, and
correct,
they are at a certain stage and they're growing together in a relationship, but they're also growing individually, and that may
exactly,
mean over time making choices that there are less things in common over time. Certain things
right,
still remain in common. So the nature of the relationship evolves and changes and can change so much, each making their own choices to go a certain way, that we end up at a place where we were really close friends, but now we're more like acquaintances, but with this history of friendship, but
hmm
it's not, and that's okay.
and that's
I,
okay. And, and
you know,
And just sort of an FYI, Brenda, is that, when we're talking here, about aspects and astrological things and going on, either one of you could be going through any of those right now as well. So,
right? Yes, you could be facing this
yes,
person. Sometimes a person's changing and we think they're trying to get away from me, but no, they're looking to change our relationship,
exactly.
which will
Yeah,
actually bring us closer together in
right,
its new form of relationship.
right,
So
right. Yeah.
sometimes change doesn't mean, oh, it's ending. It means it's changing its
Or it's ending
form.
in a certain way of what it was, or that
Right.
one was that way
Yeah.
is not working anymore. And
A-
so,
a- And I like
think
this.
of it
I
that
like
way.
this. Yeah, I see relationships as this thing we've created. It's a living thing too, and it needs personal love and attention and care.
Mhm, mhm.
And it needs to be new things introduced to it to keep it growing, as well as old things continuing to hold that sense of a center to something.
Right, right,
So we need to both take care. We need to do self-care, take care of ourselves. We need to take care of these special things we've made, the space we meet each other in called relationship, and make it as mutually beneficial as possible, and realize it's a living thing too,
right.
going through
Exactly.
its own cycle of growth and change
Right.
that we're
Yeah.
creating.
So
Yeah.
that's an FYI for Judy, because Judy said she doesn't know anything about charts. So now she just got like a crash course for this last length of time. So
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
always. But real quick here, you can go to my webpage, SuzaneNorthup.com, see everything that's going on. I am down in Florida. I am doing some in-persons, and my ongoing stuff is still ongoing. For all you folks out on the West Coast, I will be out there at the end of March and into April, hoping to connect with a few of them. I know you got a podcast coming up again. Quick, Bill, you said?
I'll probably. I just did one this last Sunday. I'll do one again in a few more weeks,
Great.
and
Okay.
I'll be posting the transcript of that podcast probably the next day or so, so people can
Perfect.
read it
Perfect.
about the forecast for the year. And I did another forecast earlier in the last fall. of this year. So yeah,
Great.
they can find me on the internet. Just Google my name, Bill Attride, and
Yep,
I'm
they can
there.
find him everywhere.
Yeah,
Everywhere.
exactly. You
Yeah.
too.
Thank you. All right, darling. Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
As
oh,
always, thanks.
I'm glad this is a good first trial
Yes,
run.
I'm
I
glad
think
I had you for my first run, Bill.
I'm glad I did too. And well, we were just talking to each other that last time on Blog Talk, which is you and me. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Exactly.
wait, no, but I'm glad we had people this time to listen to
Yes,
us and join in.
exactly.
That's
And we
great.
will do this again. So,
Okay, okay, Suzanne.
all right.
Okay,
Thanks, my dear.
okay,
And
be
thanks
well.
everybody else
Okay, love you very
I love you
much.
too. And
Okay,
thanks everybody else for putting all this through this. And we'll be back.
okay,
Check down my website when my next street. Actually, it's going to be February the 3rd next week. So
oh
check it
great,
out.
oh great, okay,
Okay. All right.
okay. Bye
Take
bye.
care.
Yep.
Bye bye.
Bye.